Hello everybody, it's Mike again. It's Thursday, March 13th, 2025. It's 75 degrees with a slight breeze. Incredible weather. It's going to last another day or so. Then the storm front moves in. Then I think it's going to get cold again. But today is just about perfection as far as weather goes. So I'm walking, and you say, well, what are you going to ramble on about today, Mike? Well, here's the thing. If you're doing dumbass things and getting dumbass results, then you're a dumbass, okay? So I've been a dumbass in certain areas. We all have. So the bottom line is we want to be aware of that, and we want to quit doing dumbass things. We want to get better. You want better results for yourself. So you're going to have to take some different actions to get you motivated enough to get you going so you can correct your dumbass moves. I know that sounds blunt. I know everybody's want to politically correct and don't call names, don't do this, don't do that. I really don't care what kind of hair you have. I don't care what you look like, whether you got a good personality, bad personality. If you can solve my problem for me, I'm ecstatic. We had some people that fixed our car where we had a collision, and very little time was spent saying, well, who are you, where are you from, who's your mama, who's your daddy, blah blah blah, where'd you go to school. It was all about solving the problem. And they said, listen, we're going to give you a fair deal. They were referred to us, and they really didn't have like a real professional setup, but they were referred to us by a very reputable vintage car repair company. And they said, we send all of our stuff to Melanie, because we were kind of like, well, they don't really have a business card or this or that or whatever. So because of the referral, and they're young people trying to get going, we went ahead and went with them. And I called Melanie, I don't even know her last name, Melanie Collision. And she said, listen, we're going to source the parts. Here's how much it's going to cost. We need X amount up front to buy the parts. Once the parts are here, we will call you. We can either come get the car or you can bring the car, and it's a 2-day turnaround. Well, I'm thinking, really? And the bottom line was, even though they didn't have all the trappings of the fancy business cards, or the fancy office, fancy location, on and on, they did exactly what they said they would do, and it ended up costing slightly less. I think one of the parts they got in was defective, so they had to source another part. And that is such a refreshing thing, man. That's what it's all about. You say, well, Mike, nobody cares. Well, I get that, but people do care. You care. When you go to the Jiffy Lube, or the place where you get your hair cut, or the place where you get your coffee, you have a certain level of expectation. When that expectation is not met, then you're disappointed or slightly disappointed. And of course, not every day works out like you think it should, but most people are creatures of habit, so they find a place that's working, i.e. coffee, place to get a hamburger or whatever. They get dialed into it. It's repeat customer. And I know I sound like I'm harping on business, but I'm really harping on what's better, how you can get better, how I can get better. And kudos to the Melanies of the world. Maybe they're not the business savvy marketing people, but at the end of the day, look at the power of a referral versus all this fancy marketing, fancy promises. if we ever have any collision issues, or if anybody we know asks, we're going to recommend Melanie, because the customer experience was exactly what she said. And there were a couple of adjustments that had to be made. So she informed us what the options were. And then I said, well, you're the expert. What would you do if it was your car? And she says, I would do X. And so we did X. And so she's not selling. She's advising, because she knows more about that than anybody, okay, in her world. Just like whatever job you're doing, you're probably an expert in it. Well, don't sell people, advise them. They want somebody to tell them what they should do. They're not looking for somebody to sell them a bunch of shit, making promises and talking fast and waving gold nugget watches and smiling with a shiny gold tooth sparkling. They just want to be told the truth, what their options are. They're not looking for perfection. They're just looking for good advice to help them solve whatever the problem is that's in front of them at a fair price. And that's the name of the game. So you don't have to be perfect. Just like you don't have to be perfect on the starting your program. You know, I'm still overweight. I'm still dropping pounds. It's tough. I'm having to change what I eat, the way I eat. But it's easier now to focus on that because I've got this part dialed in. Yes, I've lost some weight, but we've talked about weight loss, easily giving the weight away. But I'm saying, instead of focusing on the weight loss, I'm more focused on feeling even better, having more energy, getting in better shape, getting better. I'm not focused on a certain number of pounds or losing down to a number of pounds, because we've talked about how that basically is a trap for failure. Because once you've lost the 50 pounds, then what? You got to keep these programs going. It's not something you're going to do, achieve your goal, and then stop. You're going to keep moving, keep adding to your program to be better, healthier, wealthier, physically wealthier, mentally wealthier. Over time, maybe that even adds to your financial wealth, because you're making better decisions. But the point is, you know, think about that. If you're doing dumbass things and you're getting dumbass results in some area of your life, then you're a dumbass. So change. If that statement makes you mad, good. Maybe that's what you need to hear, instead of all the, oh, I just had a bad day. I just, you know, so-and-so said this to me, and, you know, I just don't know what I want to do with my life, and all this crap. You won't have a life if you don't get off your lazy ass, get off the couch, and start doing something. And walking's a good place to start, because most of you can do that. There are other things you can do if you cannot walk. But for God's sakes, do something. And quit making excuses. And quit listening to these bullshit TV shows. And all the crap out there is promise you a quick fix. Yeah, there's some quick fixes, but there's going to be a downside to that down the road. So if you can find an easier way to do something that gives you a great result for the long term, I'm all in favor of that. Everything doesn't have to be hard. This isn't really that hard now. Once you really get past the 60 days, you do have some of these plateaus. We've talked about it. But it gets to the point where even when you mess up, like eating a probably 1,000-calorie decadent cookie, it's reverse motivation. You're like, God, why'd I do that? Then you get right back out here and you start walking it off, and then you're like, you know, I don't really want to do that anymore. That was stupid. That was a dumbass move that got a dumbass result. And on that day, in that situation, I was a dumbass. And I admitted it to myself and to you guys. So anyway, I know it sounds a little harsh, but at the end of the day, you just kind of get tired of listening to people's excuses. Do something For God's sakes, do something. Thanks.